Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
My friends, it is Tuesday, already the 8th day of October 2013. I am your host, Alex Jones. We're going to open the phones up. Coming up in the next segment, I'll give the number out to talk about all of the incredible news that is taking place and unfolding right now. Here's just some of the government shutdown news that I have here in my stack we're going to be going over. Runner fined $100 at Valley Forge amid government shutdown. You're not allowed to run down the sidewalk. Here's another one. The gyms for members of the Congress deemed essential. They will remain open. So will the luxury golf courses. Park Service OK's immigration reform rally on closed National Mall. But wait for it, it gets better. Feds hold seniors at gunpoint during National Park shutdown. Actually made them stay on the bus and in a hotel at gunpoint. At gunpoint, literally kidnapped them. That's what the local paper says. Paul Watson found this in the Eagle Tribune. That's what the locals called it, was Gestapo tactics and kidnapping. That's not our headline. That's the local paper properly saying. I mean, imagine. You show up to the hotel where you've booked months ago on the bus, and the park rangers run over and go, get back, with guns, because you're an American citizen, folks. You are the enemy. You're illegal aliens? Come on in, baby. Again, the globalists are literally taking this country down right now. That story just broke, Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Here's a Kit Daniels article breaking nationally at Infowars.com. Just minutes ago went up. So hit refresh on Infowars if you're on the site. Sixth graders assignment, destroy the Bill of Rights in the first assignment in the school year. And he discovered this. This is not broken anywhere. In Arkansas, under Common Core, the folks that teach 2 + 2 = 5, you wanted to sabotage society, that's how you roll. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They revised the old racist, evil document. So if you set foot and run down a sidewalk at Valley Forge, you're going to get tickets or arrested. Or if you pull up in your travel bus at the hotel at the National Park, you're not just going to be turned back. They've got extra people on extra duty. They're going to draw down on you. I agree. I think they should execute everybody on board. I mean, just kill them. They're Americans. There might even be World War II vets on board. I mean, that's even worse. I mean, this is totally reasonable. I agree. By the way, you know, they've banned the word paper bag in places like Seattle because it's racist, because they control the language now. They're the bosses. And you know, the last decade they've banned dodgeball and stuff. Now most schools have banned jogging or running at recess, or recess altogether. You've got to stay in the cafeteria. Well, guess what? Long Island Middle School has banned footballs and any other recreational devices because playing is dangerous. And, of course, it is. In fact, my dad says we ought to do a joke PSA, and I'm going to do this. I'm giving everybody else the idea right now. I want to send our reporters out today. Let's just do it today. Or I'll go out and do it. But we need to go out and say, oh, yes, we have a petition to ban walking without a helmet for your safety. So we're going to be going over that. And the news, CBS News comes out and acts like it's reasonable. It's like, is it a little too much to ban the word brown bag? Is it a little too much to ban footballs? Well, it's for our safety. Did the school go too far when the neighbors saw the children playing with airsoft guns in a backyard for the child to be kicked out of school? Is it too much? It's not their jurisdiction. It's out of control. It's a power grab. But this is how they socially get us ready. Is it too much? The new Army manual says George Washington was Batman. Is it too much? We are hijacked by criminal control freaks. You have to understand, they know it's ridiculous. You understand? I remember like 15 years ago, I'd get a call when I caught bribery going on at the Capitol, and one of the guys was black being paid off. So the paper called and asked if I was racist, and I had to explain I wasn't smart then. I wasn't informed. I didn't understand. The paper knew I wasn't racist. They were changing the subject following a military manual. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. It is the 8th day, Tuesday, the 8th of October, 2013. I am your host, Alex Jones. And I'm going to give out the toll-free number in a moment to get your breakdown on this. You understand the establishment is trying to go over the top to break our will so that they can get away with anything and everything under the sun. That is the name of the game. Let me just give you a few of the headlines that I have here that are up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. You can also find all these articles at DrudgeReport.com on the left-hand side, all neatly stacked up in a row for you. CBS News, runner fined 100 at Valley Forge amid government shutdown. National Institute of Health stops therapy dogs from visiting sick children on purpose. The Justice Department put up a fake notice saying Amber Alerts were shut down. Turned out that was a fraud. The congressional gyms and golf courses and jets are, of course, continuing. Park Service okays immigration reform rally on closed National Mall, but other citizens entering it are being arrested or ticketed. Again, the illegal aliens are the army to drive down wages and the political group to break up the United States down the road into the larger global system. They break up original countries and then put them into super regions. That's the official plan. The plan of Aslan, which was created by the Ford Foundation in the 60s, is taught under U.S. federal grants in Mexico since 1965. On record. Go look it up. Our government, which is really globalist, teaches that from Texas to Oklahoma, through Colorado to California, up into Oregon is really Mexico. Of course, it was Mexico, Spain, Russia, everything else. France, I mean, of course, everybody was grabbing it. But the point here is the NATOs before fought with each other over it. People romanticize Native Americans. It was definitely a noble people, like anybody else had interesting qualities, but they were always killing each other for control of the regions. What do you think the Comanche, the lords of the plains, were up to, running around taking over? And I'm certainly proud of my Native American heritage, but let's just get it straight. Extremely warlike, extremely bloodthirsty, up one side and down the other, unless you're talking about a few peaceful tribes that hid out in the desert that nobody else wanted. Now, let's just stop right there. I've kind of gone off on a jag. The point here, ladies and gentlemen, is that the system is absolutely, totally out of control. Let's continue. 6th grade assignment, destroy the Bill of Rights under the Common Core curricula. Not only is 2 + 2 = 5, you heard me right, but now the Bill of Rights must be destroyed. We're going to be breaking that down. That's up on Infowars.com. And then this story, breaking nationally at Infowars.com. This is in the Eagle Tribune. This is what their writer and what the tour guide said. The tour guide pulls up at the privately owned hotel that's on the edge of a national park, and armed park ranger police drew down on the seniors with guns and made them get down while they searched them and took over the bus and then held them for hours at the hotel, literally treating them like terrorists. Okay, you understand? The illegal aliens, they can do whatever they want. They're having illegal alien rallies all over the place, socialist events, you name it, at national parks. I've got stacks of articles. It's like, by the way, no one can come in but the illegal aliens and communists. This is just all a demonstration of, by the way, if you're a graduate student in a government program, you get basically free Obamacare. Nobody else does. It's a class system, folks, just like under the Nazis. I mean, we are in mega trouble. I am shocked by how evil, how obvious all this is. I just can't believe it. They're definitely trying to cause some type of civil war. So we've got that article. The local paper called it Gestapo tactics used to detain tourists in locked hotel. So they locked up the hotel, aimed guns at people getting off tour buses. Imagine being these federal police park rangers, because I've been around them. I love national parks, but they don't want you there. And when you go now, I mean, they will come over and bug your eyes out. My son threw an empty water bottle like 5 feet, and it went into a trash can when I was at Big Bend. And they had like this Gestapo that's volunteer park rangers following people around. And the guy popped out from behind a bush and he goes, "You're lucky that didn't miss." And I went, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Technically it's littering if it would hit the ground." And I just went, and then this guy followed us up the mountain. And I didn't want to ruin our trip and make my dad get mad or Rob Dew get mad, because Rob Dew and his son were with us. And they noticed the guy followed us all the way up a mountain. I mean, I'm talking thousands of feet. and the guy was following us. Just on a weird power trip. And when I got back down the mountain, I went and asked the park rangers, because you got the regular park rangers, the armed park rangers that are police, and then these Gestapo people. And I said, so you've got volunteers out here? And they go, that's right. And they have the power to arrest. And I was just like Twilight Zone. And I just can't handle it. I'm freaking out right now. Hold on. I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out right now. And the public is just stumbling around like zombies. Do you understand, folks, that tour buses pulling up at national parks, armed police run out with firearms pointed at people? There's articles about mainline vitamin companies and mainline mining operations where SWAT teams show up, not with warrants, but for routine inspections now. Every division of the federal government is now wearing military uniforms, and they show up with M4s. That's M16s, ladies and gentlemen. And I've talked to the people. They're in the news. They will stand there, and some of the companies I've talked to won't go on air. They're so scared, and actually point M4s at them for hours. And then people just start quitting the companies and leaving and running in fear, and the feds are all laughing. I mean, we have been hijacked by criminal forces, and it's getting worse. And the feds are giving orders to see who will follow the orders to be promoted. But, I mean, we're talking about crazed-eyed demons everywhere taking over. Illegal aliens, you name it, having these big events, nobody else allowed in. They're showing us that we're dog meat. They're showing us we're the lowest form of crud. Again, Valley Forge, gigantic, huge. Most of it's private. We just had reporters up there a few months ago shooting B-roll for Obama deception. They're also at Mount Vernon. And if you jog along the edge of the national park, they have police waiting to run out and give you a ticket to teach you total and complete submission. You are a slave. You are scum. You are trash. Now they've got TSA on the highway, searching families, groping. State police nationwide being trained to do, without warrants, without even probable cause, proctology exams on your wife in front of you. And if you don't like it, they will gun you down. They want to gun you down. That, I'm telling you, folks, they are taking over. They are taking over. The police everywhere, narcotics trafficking, sex trade. I mean, a mafia runs America, okay? You need to understand that. And if they're not, there's just some naive cop who writes tickets all day and responds to, you know, home invasions and stuff. You either got cops that are out there writing tickets, is low level, but everybody mid-level and above is basically mafia now in most areas. I mean, we're rotten. America rotted, ladies and gentlemen. Toll-free number to join us, 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. We'll get you up and on the air. Let me just try to get through these headlines. Runner fined $100 at Valley Forge amid government shutdown, CBS News. CNS News. NIH stops therapy dogs from visiting sick children. Cannot make this up. The gyms, golf courses, and private jets, and believe me, the taxpayer paid for cream of American beauty. All the young women are there servicing as well as your sons right now. Let's continue, you know, to go to D.C. It's unbelievable. Nothing but limos with congressmen and ambassadors just packed full of your children, you know, that just left home a year ago to be stars and found out there's nothing but a sex trade left. By the way, that was in the news yesterday that sugar daddy stuff's way up with the government shutdown, the 17% that have been laid off. Why not? You were government whores before. Now you're just now you're just becoming actually a physical prostitute. I think that's a better job morally than taking old ladies' houses. Of course, that's all staying open in the government, taking people's houses and stuff who can't pay the taxes. That's all continuing. So let's continue here with the news. Feds hold seniors at gunpoint during national park shutdown. Let me just read you this. This is breaking at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Gestapo tactics used to detain tourists in locked hotel. Feds use Gestapo tactics to treat senior citizens like terrorists during a shutdown of Yellowstone National Park, placing them under armed guard in locked hotel as panicked tourists thought they had been arrested, vowing never to return to America. Oh, yeah, the foreigners are freaking out. Because some of them, imagine, are like older foreigners, and they're being locked up, and there's lockdowns, and crazy-eyed, weirdo, authoritarian North Korea wannabe police running around on power trips. Pat Valancourt was part of a tour group of senior citizens from Japan, Australia, and Canada, and the United States who were in Yellowstone National Park when the government shutdown was announced last week. When the party briefly exited their tour bus to take photos of a herd of bison, they were aggressively ordered by armed National Park Service rangers to, oh, I've been there, they're so rude, to get back in the vehicle on the grounds that they were involved in recreation, and that wasn't permitted during the shutdown. The group had booked a stay in the hotel with the park, and there's local news articles about it where they would draw guns on people, you name it, were soon turned into a prison as the visitors were told to remain in the building until their stay expired, despite the fact that the tour guide had already paid the $300 fee to enter the park. And let's stop. Then they wouldn't let them leave and posted armed guards. I mean, these people are ready to put us in forced labor camps. They give one order. You've seen the Obama supporters in the Mark Dice in our videos. 90%, should we kill the gun owners? Yes. Should we murder the babies? Yes. For Obama. For Obama. These are authoritarian, gibbering nobodies who crave power over liberty and freedom and success. They'd rather have power over somebody than have $1 million in the bank. Paul Watson's headline that's in local papers but is not broken nationally. And the headline isn't even hardcore enough. Because reading the local news descriptions and then what we have in our article, for days they had armed guards around the Yellowstone lodges that I've actually stayed in America Destroyed by Design, that film I made 16 years ago. And I was blown away by how rude the park rangers were there. That was the first time I would just really experienced it. And it was all like politically correct weirdos. It was all women mainly. Like a bunch of Janet Reno, Rachel Maddow lookalikes. You know, Big Sis lookalikes. They all looked like Big Sis meets Rachel Maddow meets Janet Reno's Gluteus Maximus. And I'd be 20 feet away from an elk, just walking out of the restaurant or wherever. We'd be getting footage of it. And they'd run over and say, those are dangerous. You don't need to be close to that. And I'm like, I just walked out the front here. And it was all just about henpecking and being the boss. And, oh, then they threatened to arrest us. I forgot that. We have that on tape. For walking in going, hi, we're here for the UN sign. We'd like to talk about how this is under UN control in UNESCO. And they're like, turn that off. We're going to arrest you. It's all on footage. I'm like, hi. I mean, back then I was like a 180-pound guy. Looked like I was a Calvin Klein model or something. And I'm totally polite being nice to the women, and they just didn't want me. I mean, imagine, you can't be clean cut in a polo shirt and super polite. They didn't even know who I was, and they threatened to arrest me. This is who's going to run America. They're going to run everything, ladies and gentlemen. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? They will take your house. They will take your kids. They will line you up and blow your head off if they can because they want the power. I deal with a lot of people in business, and I've really been learning, and so has all my associates, especially now. With companies and people, they don't even want to be successful and make money nowadays. They want to have power over you and obstruct you. You can call up and say, hey, this is a really good thing you have. I want 10,000 of them. I want a good price. Oh, no, we're just not going to sell to you. Why? Is it because we are politically? No, we just want to say no. We feel powerful. They actually tell you. And it's like, oh, well, that's what you'd rather. I mean, and it's happening everywhere. I'm sure you're noticing it. Just the petty, spoiled, rotten suicidalness of this culture. The self-destructiveness, the ninnying, the weakness of all these people. They are the biggest piles of weakness and pathetic ignorance I've ever seen. And they hate anyone who's smart, anyone who's good-looking, anyone who's successful, anyone who's dynamic. And they just rule over everything, ruling armies of weak idiots everywhere. And the globalists have the exact view I have. They just want to kill everybody. But then I look at them, they're even more degenerate and out of control than the general public. I mean, we're between a rock and a hard place, folks. I can tell you right now. You go out and talk to the average yuppie. You say, you know, they're putting cancer viruses in the vaccines. Here's the documents. You know, this is designed to lower our IQ. And a lot of them go, I know, there are too many people. And you go, yeah, but it's affecting you too. Whatever. They don't even care. They just have bad will towards everyone. They don't want to feel like they're under attack, so they just go, I don't care. I don't care if there's toll roads owned by Spain ripping me off. I don't care if they double the power prices. I don't care if I get cheated. They are the ultimate. It is a spirit of just servile, demonic giggliness. I don't know how to describe it. To the point of, I'm reading these local news reports, and Watson got a tip from a listener about this. We're going to get some photos of this anytime going up on the site. Imagine for days you're stuck, illegally arrested. That's what that is, official oppression. By armed Janet Renos, with, just strutting around on power trips, and you're locked in a hotel, and the foreigners are scared, running to the airport. They're running to Denver, running in fear, saying, we'll never come back, we're getting out of here. Foreign countries are putting travel advisories on the U.S. saying they may secretly arrest you. Turns out Obama has secret prison torture ships. They always had those. He didn't shut down black sites in Poland and Romania and Egypt. They've expanded them. But now they've got torture dungeons on board ships. That's in the Associated Press today. This is the mega magnitude of what we're... People are like, well, we only torture bad guys. Folks, they run Al-Qaeda. They only did this to sell the idea of torture. Do you understand? The government runs everything. They run the child kidnapping, the snuff films, the hardcore porn industry, the drug industry, the prescription drug industry, all of it. They are a mass of criminal evil who's predatorily look down on everyone, and they're converting the culture over to their system. Just like they announced last year and this year, all the big beaches they were going to close and not let humans swim, remember? Saying that we're going to have it for the earth. It's all about, under feudalism, they tell you you have no rights and exercise the power over you. This is enslavement. So when we come back, we're going to go to your phone calls. I haven't even gotten into the surface of the shutdown news, how they're just arresting and ticketing and SWAT teaming and harassing and holding veterans at gunpoint for going to, I mean, it's just insane. I've got even more when we come back, the frothing criminals. All right, I'm going to your phone calls here in a moment. And I'm trying to not go into a rage here on air. But reading these local newspaper descriptions of people locked for days inside the Yellowstone Hotel in lodges with armed police strutting around telling them they were prisoners, which is totally illegal, to let the people in, take their money, and then hold them in the hotel, saying you're not even allowed to leave. It just shows the ecstasy of the power trip. It shows how they're trying to implement it. It shows how any power they can grab, they're going to do it. Just like the state police of Texas for 2 years have officially backed police that pull you over, no probable cause, no nothing, and bend you over a car and put their hand inside your body. And if that humiliation isn't enough, they go over to another person and do it with the same glove. One glove, 2 women, 4 insertions. And I hate to have to talk like that on air, but you need to understand we're animals to these people, and they're here to exercise power over us and break our will. Now, the average state trooper doesn't know why he's engaged in this psych warfare operation, but I have the Army training manuals from the 60s, and I have their training films. And this is what you do when you're terrorizing and breaking a population. Because if they can fully degrade us, we will think they can do anything. Because they're getting us ready to start arresting us and taking us to forced labor centers, which they've built into the Emergency Centers Establishment Act, Rex 84, Garden Plot, Cable Splicer, the Civilian Inmate Labor Camp Program. By the way, they have National Geographic and people come out and say there's no FEMA camps. Yeah, there's nothing called concentration camps. It'd be like, if you had a hotel that was really a crack house. It's not going to say crack house, hookers on the 2nd floor. You think the Watergate Hotel in D.C. tells you that they got whole floors of hookers and gambling and everything else going on there famously? Ongoing? Who was the CIA director who had to step down a few years ago up there at the party? It's the same deal. They label all this Homeland Security. What it really is total absolute evil. And I'm just realizing how over the top it is. And their federal minions are following orders. They've had a few senior people with the Park Service who aren't criminals come out and say, we've been ordered to make people miserable, and it's disgusting. That's a quote. Senior Park Service ranger. We've been ordered to make people miserable, and it's disgusting. No, it's criminal. Because if you really had a government shutdown and they really had laid off most of the park rangers, which they haven't, that's on record, they would say, okay, well, this canyon's closed in this area because these are deemed to be dangerous, areas, or it's, go into these areas at your own risk. And that's how it'd be handled. But see, just like they've banned dodgeball 10 years ago, now they're banning bringing a football to school to play during recess, or they're banning running or playing tag. The nanny state is really a prison state, and they know it is. It's not like they're misguided liberals. These are not liberals. These are social engineers who know full well what they're doing. Now, their average minion's just a typecast, psychologically tested control freak who wants to exercise power over people and doesn't want money or success or liberty or to be honorable. I mean, an honorable, powerful person would be embarrassed to go around henpecking people. Even when you're in the right and got to tell somebody they're wrong, you don't enjoy it. It's just got to be done. But you see the imperious, remember the TSA ad last year? It said, we want to hire people with an imperious attitude. You know the definition of imperious? It's imperial, overbearing, domineering, arrogant. A king to his vassal is one of the definitions. And how does government act? A king to his vassals, his slaves, assuming power or authority without justification, arrogant and domineering. That's the Webster, Merriam-Webster. In fact, let's look at the other definition below it. Having or showing a proud and unpleasant attitude of someone who gives orders and expects others to obey them. The ad for the TSA is, we want someone to be imperious. And that's why when I go to the TSA now, and they're going, shiz off, I go, hey, you guys know the government runs the terrorist. And at first they get really excited, hoping I'm going to say, the government blew up stuff so they can claim I'm doing a bomb threat and charge me with a fake felony. The felony is saying there's a bomb when there isn't. The felony is not saying that all this bomb stuff's fake. But the point is, I don't go that far. It doesn't matter. Then I say, this is all a fraud and all a scam, and you're all getting cancer in here roasting. I'm not talking about the body scanners when they start going, they told us it's safe. I go, I'm talking about those X-ray machines right there, much more powerful than a chest X-ray and not shielded. You better look up the studies. And they go, hey, Alex, just move on through. Anywhere I'm at, doesn't matter where I'm at. Flew into Dallas. Went through 3 different checkpoints. I'm going through the final one before I go back through TSA to fly to Austin. One of the only countries that does this. And the woman's going, oh, your passport's only got a year on it. You need to get that updated. And I looked at her and I said, so you're saying it's wrong? She goes, I'm just saying. She's looking at me, going, got any drugs? And I said, no, I don't bring the drugs in like I know you guys do full well here. She started shaking. Just get on out of here. And all of a sudden, a captain walks over and starts shaking my hand. Alex Jones, I just want to say I really appreciate what you're doing. She didn't dare get imperious with him because they just threatened to quit flying. Remember, they used to make them go through TSA until they talked about how ridiculous it was? We need to just say no. And I started going, no, wait a minute. You know full well that you guys are one of the biggest ports of entry for drugs and everything. You're asking me about drugs when the government's on record bringing in most of the drugs. She's like, sir, just please get out of here. Oh, it's not fun anymore, is it? It's not fun anymore to dominate people, you bully. Make me sick. You people make me sick because you're so weak, but you want to act all powerful and like you're in control of everything. You're in control of nothing, scum. You people are so delusional. You got 91% of world reactors leaking now. You don't even care if nuclear reactors are leaking now. You're that delusional and narcissistic and pathetic that you don't even care about the planet or the future of our species. Sorry, I started having flashbacks. These people make me want to throw up. It's all about how we're bad. We're suspected drug dealers. We're suspected terrorists. We're suspected money launderers. We're criminals when they're the ones running the whole criminal show. They're the same type of people that would come into your grocery store 100 years ago in New York or New Jersey with the Italian mafia feeding on fellow Italians and saying, hey, there's going to be a fire. You heard about Luigi's getting burned down last week. If you don't pay me money and hire my cousin, there's going to be a fire. I want to protect your business. You don't want to protect jack crap. You want to make me your slave, and I'd rather die before I become your slave. You got that? Victory or death, liberty or death. I am never backing down to you scum. All right, I said to go to your phone calls. I just... People are like, this guy's a maniac. No, this is what freedom looks like, ladies and gentlemen. This is the attitude of not being a slave. And all of you out there that want to get on your knees and suck black boots, you go ahead and do it all day long. But I'm telling you, from the lowest level cop right up to the president, this government's criminal. Does that mean the cop is a bad person himself or herself? No. But they're not going to be on their force long when the federalization comes, as is already happening, if they don't play ball with the New World Order. They want to be in the press conference with the president. They want to be part of the winning team. You're not on the winning team. You're on a sinking ship. You're a bunch of termites trying to eat through the hull, thinking you're winning, when all you're going to do is bring the whole ship down into the North Atlantic. Let me read you some of these headlines, and I'm going to your calls. So let's read the headlines. Park Service OK's immigration reform rally on closed National Mall. That's right. But on the very same mall, people are being ticketed and fined. Here's one nearby. Running fine, $100 at Valley Forge. Runner fined amid government shutdown for running on the sidewalk. You don't use that sidewalk, scum. By the way, it turned out that Valley Forge sidewalk and stuff isn't even federally paid for or built. Doesn't matter. The scum is taken over. NIH stops therapy dogs from visiting sick children, just like they told all the preachers on the bases, even the volunteers. You go to somebody when their mama dies and they're crying, trying to call their priest or their pastor, we're going to arrest you. And you know what all the preachers did, except for the Catholic diocese? They got on their knees and followed orders because they're 501c3 government run. They love it. They're off fishing right now. They don't want to really go help people. They want to follow orders. If Christ would have been like these people, the Pharisees would have told them to do what they said, and then Christ would have got on his knees and said, yes, sir, Romans 13, you're the spiritual government, I do what you say. Christ would have hit his knees right there. They got preachers all over TV. We've played the clips saying the Christians were wrong to not worship the idols in Rome and to be thrown to the lions. They were bad for going to their deaths. They weren't heroes. They weren't honorable. They weren't the example of strength and honor and stoicism. They were bad, according to these little filthy demon preachers that you know are doing you know what behind the scenes. Bunch of, Oh, boy. Let's continue here. Signs at National Mall closed, but immigration reform rally is a go. But, hey, if you were inside a federal park or on the edge of it, they're going to hold you at gunpoint and kidnap you. And if they catch you trying to even park on state-run or state-owned turnoffs outside of Mount Rushmore, they're going to block those. They're going to block state-run boat ramps on the Mississippi because they're working overtime against their enemy. They're the federal family. They're foreign banker run. Their religion is that we're all scum. The New World Order government religion is that they're God and we're all trash. Get your fiscal house in order. China warns U.S. as Asia expresses concern over $1.3 trillion of investments. China, built by the New World Order. Mao, put in power by the U.S. Army and the Pentagon in 1949, on record declassified, 2003. Sold our fake imaginary debt, signed on to derivatives, and they're now lobbying and telling us that we're indebted to them. We've already given $47 trillion to the foreign banks, $1.3 trillion the Chinese bought. And now they're lecturing us and telling us they run the show. House GOP won't pursue short-term debt ceiling deal for now. And so the markets are being rocked. Debt limit taking center stage in impasse. Obama says it's the Tea Party's fault and that, why, we're going to have an implosion if we don't do what he says. That's how they hold us hostage. They've maneuvered us into this fake debt so they could do this. On record. That's Wall Street Journal. Totally evil. Here's an analyst article out of Reuters. U.S. banks get ready for the day when deposits shrink. U.S. banks are nudging from regulators or planning for the day when the economy recovers. That means when we're all totally on government dole Rates rise and depositors yank money from safe but low-paying accounts. Yeah, right. Let's go to your phone calls. So imagine, you go to Yosemite, you go to the Grand Canyon, you're in your private lodge, privately run, private restaurants, private everything. You drive in, you park rangers are bugging their eyes out at you. Mad that you're driving a nice car, whatever. They're all part of a green cult. You go in, all of a sudden, they're running up and down the halls going, lockdown, lockdown, no one's allowed to leave. Government shutdown. And for days, you're stuck there. Tour buses pull in with Japanese and Germans and Canadians on them. They walk off and get back in the vehicle. They've got their guns. I mean, these people are freaking out, saying, I'm never coming back here. America is a fascist country. These are the quotes. And you know what? It is. I'll guarantee you the Nazis, unless they already had your name and number and were coming after you, they didn't just randomly, when, tourists in 1937 would visit from France or anything, run up to their bus and pull guns on them. The Ecuadorian president has now compared the U.S. to Nazi Germany. I mean, folks, I've been in Latin America, Central America, you name it. I mean, it's nothing like this now. I mean, the cops don't bug their eyes out at you like this in Mexico. They might come over and shake you down. Oh, very sorry, need tip. But, I mean, it's not just like tour bus pulls up and they pull guns out and run up aiming it at you. It's like mentally ill, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, they're just tyrants. They just want your money. But see, not the control freaks that run America. They want to dominate you. They want to humiliate you. They want to let you know you're a slave. They get up on MSNBC in promos and say, your kids belong to us now. And laugh at you. And they get up on MSNBC and lie with no proof. Don't even show the Boston Bombers did it because Alex Jones, he's their prophet, and he's deeply racist. It just shows what authoritarian, conscious demons they are, and they hate America and they hate freedom so much, they'll throw any weapon at us. Anything, because they know they're sinking. They know the people are awake to them. They know the people are aware of what they're up to. Let's go to Jack in Washington. You're on the air, Jack.
Yeah, Alex.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's an honor to talk to you, man. I watch you every day. I appreciate you, and I want to say too that, hey, man, if it wasn't for your show, I would have never found Chuck Baldwin up in Kalispell. I really love this guy's ministry. I think everybody needs to plug into him. I'm into him every day. But my point is, Alex, listen to me. Listen to me, brother. I just want to say that, hey, you know what? I'm on disability, brother, and I feel like sometimes you and Chuck both, I think you lump everybody in together. Look, man, I got 5 discs out my neck. Both of my knees are gone. I've got prosthetics in my shoes. Alex, what do I do here, brother? I've got hamburgers sitting in my freezer that I can't even hardly fry up because my neck will swell up on me. Listen, man, am I supposed to should I just give back all my food stamps? Should I give back my pension disability to the VA and just go out and hold up a sign? Is that, what am I supposed to do, sir?
Well, let me explain this, and God bless you, and I appreciate your call, sir. The media has changed the subject here. The Decepticon media. $47 trillion, last time they admitted numbers, in the last 5 years has been transferred to international offshore banks, mainly foreign. The national debt's only $17 trillion. And the point is that they've increased the prices of medical care, letting insurance companies and HMOs get involved. They're corrupting the system. So their answer is totally nationalize it to fix it, but the profits still go to these mafia interests who aren't free market. Then there's the issue of the unhealthy lifestyle, the food, the vaccines they give veterans. So veterans are disintegrating. And no, you should get disability. And there's plenty of money to pay for your disability. Okay, we're not talking about stuff like that. We're talking about the fractional reserve banking, the government picking the winners and losers, the staged, rigged, insider monopoly economy. That's the enemy. This is breaking up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. World War II vets to storm barricades surrounding Iwo Jima Monument. That's the one with the iconic image of the troops, the Marines raising the flag. Confrontation with feds as outrage over shutdown builds. The federal government has barred World War II Marine veterans from visiting 2 Iwo Jima monuments that you can just walk right up to off the street near the Arlington National Cemetery. Man, I tell you. This Saturday, prompting North County Honor Flight Executive Director Daniel Kafitz to ask protesters planning to attend a Million Vets March in D.C. on the same weekend to help remove the barricade. I agree. Everybody should just occupy that. Those filthy little degenerate New World Order feds, foreign enemies. They are foreign enemies, on record. Honor Flight, which pays for the veterans to visit war memorials, is the organization that made headlines last week after helping vets break through barricades to visit the World War II Memorial in D.C. The barricades were subsequently reinforced and wired shut by the degenerate criminals, narcotics trafficking government. I mean, that's who they are. They're a mafia, and they're showing you they're a mafia, and they don't care. They're going to keep, just keep shutting America down. They shut power plants down every 2 or 3 days. They're shutting the whole country down. I want to explain something to the last caller that was like, hey, I can't get a job. I'm a veteran. I've got disability. And he's saying, what do I do? I would go on a fast. I would drink 50 gallons of water over the next few weeks. Whatever. The point is we've all been poisoned, but vets especially with all the designer vaccines. But when I say we're conquered by globalists, here it is. IMF warns Washington over debt impasse. Communist Chinese warn Washington. Say it could be catastrophic and lower our credit value. The bankers are already doing that. We've already had our credit value lowered. They're just going to maneuver us into this. They hold us hostage. Look at this. England's young adults trail the world in literacy and math scores. They trail the world. Oh, really? U.S. adults are dumber than the average human. That's out of the BBC. This particular article is out of the Associated Press because they fluoridate the water. They feed us GMO. We are the center of the New World Order. We are the test. John P. Holdren, 1974, Ecoscience. Read it. It's free online. How they poison the water. I am dumb is what they write on the chalkboard, I guess. You know, that's why they have 2 + 2 = 5 now under federal Common Core curricula. And if you get up as a father and complain, they arrest you. Because they're authoritarians. They're not liberals who mean well. They're criminals. If you've not figured that out yet, they're coming. I hate the fact they don't have our guns. Look at this article. 6th grade assignment, destroy the Bill of Rights in Arkansas under federal funding. They talk about how it's bad and how the kids get rid of it. That's Kit Daniels, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com. I'm going to end this hour and come back with some calls, and then our guest at 20 after. Our guest is going to be with us at 20 after. After I go to your calls, I promise I'll get to your calls. I want to just tell you, the truck came in. We now have 5,000 more of these, but those will probably sell out quick. It is the best nascent iodine out there. It is just InfoWarsLife.com. Double strength, half the price. You can read about all the info, watch the video breaking it down at InfoWarsLife.com. And just what it does for the thyroid with the background radiation increasing, what it does for me and everything else. All the experts said this is the way to go, and it is. I've never seen anything like this quality of nascent iodine, proprietary design by Dr. Group, InfoWarsLife.com.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
By the way, Tosh Plumlee, the whistleblower on Benghazi, he got threatened by the DOJ. He's going to be popping in with us tomorrow. That article by Julie Wilson's up on Infowars.com. I'm going to take your calls for the next 20 minutes, then we're going to have best-selling author on to deal with the impeachable offenses of Barack Hussein Obama. Aaron Klein will be joining us. He wrote the book, Impeachable Offenses, the case for removing Barack Obama from office. This is very important. He'll be joining us in 20 minutes. We sell the WorldNet Daily book at InfoWarsStore.com. Just thought I would throw that out there for you. If you just joined us, I'm going to recap the top stories, get the news I haven't covered briefly in the next segment before calls, but let's go back to your calls right now. Jordan, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, bear with me. There's so much news. First off, I wanted to say on your last call about the Social Security, they're talking about shutting that down in 18 months, running out of money.
Look, it's designed to go bankrupt and then always demand more taxes that then go bankrupt. It's a takeover.
Yes, I know. And
so that's the problem, is there's no amount of money to fix it because the globalists are shutting down all our industries so that we don't have prosperity to pay for everything. It's designed to fail. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. That's all right. And another thing I wanted to say is a bunch of, like, I think it's supposed to be about 3,000 truck drivers supposed to go to Washington, D.C. on the 11th through the 13th and protest. And my grandpa's one of them, and I urge all the truck drivers to go do that. That's going to be a big event. And one question I wanted to ask you real quick. You know who Mark Kessler is, don't you? The police chief who's been speaking out about the UN and John Kerry and all of them?
It rings the bell. Where's he police chief?
I think it's Philadelphia. He started the Constitutional Security Force, and he's a real strong for the Second Amendment. I was just going to say, I think you and him would get along real well. I think you should have him on your show sometime.
Oh, wait a minute. I remember that guy. It's in a town outside there, and he is an Alex Jones listener. I think I've asked for the folks to get him on before, but let me search his name, and I'll just get it going again. What was his name?
Mark Kessler, M-A-R-K-K-E-S-S-L-E-R. Okay. And the last thing I wanted to say is they've been talking a lot about EMPs lately, and I just want to let everyone know if that happens and our electric grid goes down, a lot of people ain't going to make it through that, you know. And there's a document that was leaked. I mean, it was documented in 2001. It's a NASA war document. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's actually on the NASA website. And that tells all about what they're planning to do and what needs to take place, you know, kind of like that Agenda 21.
Sure. Yeah, no, I thought his name rung a bell. Mark Kessler's been on the show before. Yeah, he's been on the show before. And I think they're going after him politically now because Mark Kessler has termination notice after firing weapons on video. That was from back in September, so I'll look into that. I appreciate your call, sir. Yeah, police chief gets termination notice after anti-liberal rants firing weapons on video. So because he shot guns on video and said he supported the Second Amendment, that's not allowed. So there you go. That's CNN reporting that. Let's talk to Chet in New York. Chet, welcome.
Hello, Alex. How are you, sir?
Fine.
Oh, that was a good opening monologue. I loved it. Yeah, I was just calling to talk about this. The shutdown is actually for a takeover because as we see the Nazi goon squads goose-stepping all over the nation, taking over parks, holding people hostage. I'm with you, you know. I think the Lord personally is just opening everyone's eyes, but half of them are shut. They don't see the massive takeover occurring right under our noses, and it's just everywhere. I mean, they're just one after another, after another, after another. It's on and on and on. So what I did, just to try to quell them for a moment, I arrested myself, my wife, and my dog with a Pop-Tart gun. But my dog ate the gun, so I guess I can't do that. But, yeah, I say non-compliance, civil disobedience. God bless the World War II vets, the truckers, and yourself, Mr. Jones, and all the truth seekers.
God bless you, brother. All right, we'll be right back with more calls from Sheila, Jamie, and Nathan. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us into the second hour. We're about to go right back to your phone calls. Then the author of Impeachable Offenses, Aaron Klein, is going to be joining us coming out in the next segment to break down just the laundry list of impeachable offenses and why it's so important to impeach Obama. Because if they're able to set the precedent to get away with this, future administrations will be able to do it. I know that's common sense, but we need to really let that burn into our brains. Here's some of the headlines up on Infowars.com. World War II vets to storm barricades surrounding Iwo Jima Monument. They're now shutting down areas of Arlington Cemetery, telling vets they can't visit dead loved ones or families, visit their deceased loved ones. This is the total degeneracy and evil of the federal criminals. Let's continue. Who seized control of the whole nation, the pension funds, the Social Security, all to wreck it, to make us collectivized. Feds hold seniors at gunpoint during national park shutdown, and then they actually kidnap them and wouldn't let them leave their hotel. This is incredible. That was at Yellowstone. Also, we have an article, 6th graders assignment, destroy the Bill of Rights in Arkansas under federal funding. Just like you thought 2 + 2 = 5 was bad. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now it's racist if you don't get rid of the Bill of Rights. Also, police arrest veterans at New York City Memorial. Not allowed to do that, veterans. You have to be arrested. The cops proudly loaded dozens in paddy wagons. Obamacare shutdown theater. President holds entire nation ransom with contrived closings. 12 very ominous warnings about the U.S. debt default and what it would mean for the global economy. I need to get to that article by Michael Schneider because it ties into the IMF coming out about 20 minutes ago and warning Washington over debt impasse. That is in the Associated Press, and Time Magazine's also reporting it. So, very serious situation. The Chi-Coms are lecturing us that we've got to raise the debt and socialize to pay them back their $1.3 trillion in debt, which, again, isn't even real debt. We've been maneuvered into this position. We have plenty of industry left and systems to pay off the 16, 17 trillion. It's the 47 trillion we've paid to foreign banks and being signed on to the 1.5 quadrille, 600+ trillion of that the U.S. is signed on to, according to the Washington Post. That's not our debt. It's the derivatives garbage, which the bankers aren't using. It's a black hole of debt to destroy us that they sign us on to. I want to explain that to you. This is the plan. And now they're maneuvering us to give us unlimited power, give us government-run health care, give us debt increases, because after all, increasing the debt does not increase debt. I'll say that again. Increasing the debt does not increase the debt. I'll say that again. Increasing the debt does not increase the debt, Obama said. So there you have it. Let's go ahead and go back to the phone calls, then we'll get to our guest and news as it breaks. Sheila in Texas. Sheila, you're on the air. Welcome.
Good morning, Alex. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
In all the chaos that's happening around the world, it's very easy to be completely overwhelmed and feel helpless. But I would like for people to listen to these words and get focused. For God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. Now, sound mind is possibly one of the most coveted things we can have in the midst of chaos. So it is available to us, and what you've got to get focused on is doing the things that you tell every day on your programs, Alex, is one, to get your family prepared and taken care of by doing the steps that you outlined, the products that you offer. Get your family taken care of in light of what's ahead of us. Now, I would also add that there are devices that emit a frequency to help counter all these hazardous man-made frequencies. And I tried to give you one, Alex, but I was on your program, the Nightly News, back in June.
Oh, I remember, Sheila. I appreciate your call. Yeah, you know, I don't know if it's been scientifically proven, all those devices and things that people claim counter all the radiation. People stick patented stuff, but you can patent anything on the back of a cell phone and say that it stops the frequency from hurting you. It's still sending out a microwave frequency. People say, well, it changes the fluctuation of it. Really? I actually talked to electrical engineers, and they say, no, it doesn't. It's the exact same signal. I've even off-record tested that stuff. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about what you're up to. I don't know. I haven't looked at that. I just, you know, people would love to think that, you know, that there's some answer. The answer is don't have a smart meter on your house. The answer is vote the smart meters out of your town like you've been helping do. God bless you. Appreciate your call. Nathan in Minnesota, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex.
Hello, Nathan.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can be somewhat articulate here. But just wanted to say off the bat that I don't agree with 100% with everything you say, but I do appreciate that you have a lot of good content, and just wanted to give a quick shout out.
Well, sir, I could always say things differently. When I hear a rebroadcast sometimes, I think, man, I wish I would have said it that way, or I'm being sarcastic there. People may not understand that. So I'm my biggest critic. So you don't need to preface it with you don't agree with me on everything. People always kind of call in, and they want to be screened because they're used to talk radio. They want me to screen their call, and they want to say, hey, I don't totally agree with the host, but I want to, you know, give my point on this. Brother, you're live on the air. So go ahead.
Okay, well, I didn't want to focus on that too much, but I want to give a quick shout-out to the Derek Knight interview with Everett Stern last week on the Nightly News. I thought that was fantastic. But, yeah, I do agree with one thing, and that is how crazy this stuff that's going on and with the government shutdown, and to me it seems a lot more like a shutdown of the people than the government, because... Well,
yeah, I mean, the government's showing you that they're the boss and they can do whatever they want. It looks like they're being bullies and that it's a PR disaster. They don't care. They intend to continue and never stop the rollout of the police state. And so they're slapping us around right now. I appreciate your call, sir. Jamie in West Virginia, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex.
Hey.
I wanted to share something with you. I know everything's all screwed up all the time, but I just was watching that government shutdown thing about a day or two after it happened, and along the bottom on the ticker tape, I didn't see what the name of the bank was, but it said that the government employees could have their mortgage payments and their car payments deferred. And I just think, my husband's a coal miner. He's been laid off 9 times in 18 months. We have moved 5 times. We've had 5 kids. And we've sold everything we've had, and we don't have any way to prepare for the future because we really have nothing left. And I just don't understand why those people can get their payments deferred and keep their credit up and live their life when somebody else's life doesn't matter.
Because they're part of the federal family for now, and the globalists need their minions in place for the final destruction of America. This is a military takeover. This has all economically been wargamed by computers. That's why they're shutting down the power plants to make the coal miners go bankrupt, to make everybody go bankrupt except the insiders. Did you know in Austin, the county, the feds, and the city, and even the central government district, Tarrytown, where all the commies live and all the criminals live, on record, I mean, they all openly run the city. There's election fraud. There's no real elections here. They all get lower power prices and are guaranteed not to get their power cut off during the Romanian Ceausescu system they're bringing in here. I mean, we are the UN model. And so they're just going to squeeze everyone. That's the nature of this. They've got the taxes and everything set to bankrupt you. You're not allowed as a citizen to go to the national parks, but the illegal aliens are. In the news today, allowed to do whatever they want if they're an illegal alien. Okay, because they're God. They're allowed to have their illegal alien rallies at the parks, but veterans can't go see Arlington Cemetery. You understand? You can't visit your daddy if he's in Arlington Cemetery, but if you're an illegal alien, you could probably urinate all over the graves and probably be given a silver star for it. This is run by psych warfare people. They're here to break our will. Let us get angry, but they're just going to do more and more. They're here to break our will. And the question is, will they get away with it? I mean, we're dealing with psychological warfare. Okay? That's what all these lockdowns are about. If somebody sees a neighbor with a gun going to the shooting range, they lock down whole areas of the city. Well, they locked down Yellowstone and kept people in their hotels for days, saying you're not allowed to come out. And if you tried, they pulled guns on you. And people are like, that's outrageous. That's criminal. The foreigners all fled and said they'll never come here again. But they're like, no, we're here to let you know, scum, that next they're going to be taking us to FEMA camps. So they have to get us ready for it. And they're incrementally doing it. You understand?
Yeah, I do, and I don't understand why. Why do we have to wait for them to do it to us? Why can't people act right now?
Well, ma'am, folks are acting now. They're buying more armaments than anybody's ever bought in history. And they're buying the ammo, and they're ready. And the globalists are wanting to start a civil war. They'll just sit back while the country implodes and people starve to death en masse, and then they'll roll in with UN forces later. But, yeah, all these control freaks and all these cannon fodder, they want to see a real government shutdown once the Civil War starts, which I hope doesn't happen. It's going to be bad. And, I mean, some estimates are if there's a civil war and power goes off and stuff for even a couple of months, you're talking 100 million dead. Can you imagine these spoiled, rotten people out here, or folks pushed to the edge, you have nothing under the system when everything turns off? Can you imagine?
No, it constantly leaves a feeling of doom over my head.
Well, this is how they broke them. This is how they broke Poland and Ukraine and China. Our government ran the mouth operation for 20 years and killed 84 million people, is the Chinese estimate. Our government administered the killing of 84 million Chinese. And then when Mao died, they wrote editorials in the New York Times praising the great job they did, David Rockefeller. I mean, people, look, I'm not trying to scare people. You just have to know they want a Mao takeover in America. Okay? They want to cull a large portion of the population and then re-engineer America forever. They want to break the country. This is how a war against America looks. It's siege. Okay? The White House is a foreign entity. The government's captured. This is not a joke. We'll be right back. Criminal foundations run and owned by mainly European offshore above-the-law banks are on record putting Mao Zedong in power in 49. Didn't mean our whole government was behind Mao Zedong, but criminal elements of it were. Just like our government helped put the Ayatollahs in 79. Just like our government's now funding Al-Qaeda in Syria and Libya and Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood, to kill Christians, you name it. They want to destabilize things, and they're working against free societies everywhere. Just like they're using Odinga, Obama's cousin, to bring in Al-Qaeda and destabilize Kenya. This is a mafia. And I've just woken up to the fact that they're even worse than I thought. That's why they're saying illegal aliens can have amnesty deals at national parks across the country today. But veterans can't go to many areas of Arlington Cemetery like the Iwo Jima War Memorial. And they want to shut the country down, Cloward and Piven. They want to take control of our lives. This is a short segment, long segment coming up. I want to get Aaron Klein because he's a smart guy, New York Times bestselling author, journalist, reporting for WorldNet Daily. He also hosts Aaron Klein Investigative Radio on New York's WABC, one of the most listened to stations in the country, kleinonline.com or WND.com. He joins us. We're selling his book. It's absolutely key to really understand just how criminal Obama is. Impeachable offenses, we're going to get into that, and why it's so important to impeach Obama, because then the precedent's set for all this crime if he doesn't get impeached. I mean, he makes Nixon literally look like a saint. I mean, it's that bad, that criminal. We're going to get into that with him in the next segment coming up, but I first wanted to ask him, where do you think we are as a country, Aaron? Because everything the government's doing is bad PR, but they don't care. Is it that they're trying to break our will and just set the precedent for even more? Getting on TV saying your kids belong to the state, MSNBC, in promos, Obama saying the Chinese own our debt, do what they say, the IMF threatening default if we don't do what they say. I mean, we're really seeing America run like some third world country with offshore interests telling us what to do. What is the method to Obama's madness, Aaron Klein? Where do you think things are geopolitically right now?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'll tell you, we seem to be transitioning to the way that President Obama first talked to his first goal, which is the transformation, the fundamental transformation of America. But back in 2008, not a single reporter bothered to ask the guy, well, hey, Obama, what do you mean by fundamentally transforming America? What do you want to transform it into? And very clearly, we are edging along in this process of becoming basically a socialist-style entity, a socialist-style state, first on the one hand, and by that I mean major federal control. DHS out of control, President Obama out of control, sidestepping Congress, launching wars, but then also at the same time, it looks like we're seeing the internationalization of the United States, at least when it comes to our foreign policy. So I see both things happening at the same time, an emerging federal state that pretty much controls every aspect of an individual's life from birth virtually through death, plus the disintegration, not just in the United States, but around the world, of the concept of sovereignty, of borders, of statehood, of nationhood, things like responsibility to protect. This is becoming the new norm for international warfare.
You just summed up what it takes me hours to say in 2 minutes. Continue. Continue. It
really is unbelievable that we're at this situation right now. But what's more unbelievable is that nobody seems to be talking about it. That there is no news media. The news media has been on board this from the beginning. Look at the thing called the Journalistas, which was that email listserv that literally sought to minimize President Obama's scandalous radical ties. But here's the thing. This is not about Obama. Obama is simply a figurehead in all of this. And by all of this, what I mean is specifically is the so-called progressive agenda. Word progressive, I hate it because they get to label their own institutes, their own ideology, so they call it progressive or they call it, let's say, the peace process in the Middle East, when it's anything but. It is not progressive, it's regressive, but Obama is part of decades-old strategy. In fact, even I would say a century-old strategy or more of socialist infiltration of major institutions of power. And by infiltration, I mean just that: hiding, disguising the agenda, greeting card, Hallmark greeting card agenda, disguising the true goal, which very clearly is a state run pretty much by the federal government. But here's Obama, as I said, is just the figurehead. There are plans. I wrote a book before this, not to plug another book, but Fool Me Twice. I was on your show to talk about it, which was Obama's plans for the next 4 years. How did I know that? Because the plans are published. The progressives boast about this stuff.
That's right, and the progressives are really hyper-authoritarians. Let's stay there. And that's what I finally learned in the last 10 years. I was naive before that. These so-called liberals, even mid-level, they know they're like military officers. They know they're socialists. They plan mass arrest. They plan forced labor camps. They're on a power trip. Folks, Aaron Klein, syndicated talk show host out of WABC New York, biggest station in the country. Investigative journalist. Yeah. I hear my show rebroadcast on local stations at night sometimes when I'm in the car, and I hear it, and it sounds crazy. And then I sit there in the car with my children and my wife driving somewhere, and I realize this is really happening. I mean, I wish I was exaggerating. I wish that I hadn't read all their manuals and training books and admissions like Aaron Klein has done. That's when I read his book last year when he was on. It was so powerful because it was just quoting them. That's how we knew what Obama would do 6 years ago with Obama deception. That's how we knew what he would do a year ago because these are authoritarians. These are bad guys, and they know they're bad guys. I can't tell you how many times I've had a professor or a fake environmentalist or one of these people at a counter rally or an event I'm at walk over when there's no camera around and grab him by the arm and say, when we take over, buddy, you're dead. And I go, I thought you're like a liberal. And you're like, you know who we are. I mean, it's crazy. And I've had guests here that I'm not going to say their names who are, quote, liberal. And I've gone out to dinner with them, and they start drinking repeatedly. And they start saying, look, when we take over, we're going to kill everybody. Remember Larry Grathwold, the FBI informant, the Special Forces guy, who was in the Weatherman with the Ayers folks? And they said, we're going to bankrupt America, we're going to bring in socialism, make everybody collective, and then we're going to put 50 million people in camps and kill at least 25 million of them. Now, look, I get up here and I say all this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not even saying they'll be able to do this. But they have us under collectivism already. They have 50 million people on food stamps, 101 million on food assistance. This is their plan under Cloward and Piven. That's just a regurgitation of older plans of enslavement. And Aaron, in his new book that everyone needs to read, you need to get this to all of the progressives, the authoritarians, you know, who aren't in the cult. You've got outer party members of liberalism who really mean well and really buy into the bull. They're going to get free health care, and Obama loves the children and wants the gay people to live in peace and blah, blah, blah. That's all window dressing. The inner party members, in their own writings, are the most control freak, vicious authoritarians. What the New York Times senior writer, former head of the Washington Post, say yesterday, that Obama is the biggest control freak, biggest authoritarian they've ever seen. They're arresting reporters. They're persecuting the Tea Party. They're going after everybody. They're telling Catholic priests and preachers and rabbis, any religious leader, you're not allowed to minister even as a volunteer during the shutdown. They're not letting service animals come and help people that are hurt at veterans memorials. They're saying no visitors, can't help the veterans. They're not letting veterans get into Arlington Cemetery now. That's the new announcement up on Infowars.com. And Aaron, here's what I'm asking, because you're a really smart guy. I mean, you just crystallized everything in 2 minutes earlier. I respect you. What, are they power mad, or is there a method to this madness? Why are they so arrogant now? Are they trying to cause a revolt or something?
Yeah, I believe there are several things going on here at the same time. First, I don't think that Obama in his head actually thinks that he's doing this, and by this I mean transforming America basically into a socialist-style entity. I don't think that he believes he's doing this for, like, evil purposes or to harm Americans. I actually think that he and so many in the progressive establishment truly believe that their agenda truly believe that their ideas for America, for a larger federal government, for basically an expansive, almost authoritarian federal government, they believe that this is for the betterment of society. They believe that if we give up our individualism, if we give up our the founding ideas of the United States of America and give it up to an all-encompassing government, that this is for the betterment. But actually, you mentioned that there are some within the progressive movement, and many really across the political spectrum, by the way, who are furious at this. I can confirm that. I personally heard from some key progressive leaders who read the book, read Impeachable Offenses, and they agree with about half of what is in the book. They agree with the chapters on surveillance, on the emerging surveillance regime, on the NSA, on the basically illegal war in Libya that first toppled Gaddafi's regime.
Sure, but Aaron, that's the useful idiots that mean well, yeah. like Governor Brown, who really thinks turning it into Mexico and legalizing the illegals is a nice thing to do. And, you know, he banned NDAA in the state and signed the bill because he's probably not an evil guy. He, like Jimmy Carter, he really believes this. But listen, I've read their documents. Look at the article out of the New Republic calling for Obama to basically take over Congress like Yeltsin did the Duma in 1991. I mean, certainly, are you saying you haven't run into the progressives that are really hardcore communist and talk about how they just want to take over?
Oh, no, I certainly have run into a lot of them. Some of them agree with some of what's in the book, but certainly their agenda is just that. It's to take over. If you would have told me a few years ago, but actually you were talking about this for a long time, but I was a kid. I was like in high school in the 1990s, and if somebody would have come to me and said that the United States government, for example, is arming Al-Qaeda, our most deadly, dangerous adversary, I would call you crazy. I would say you're a conspiracy theorist. I would say that that's absolute lunacy. Who could believe such a thing? Well, in the book, I document just that, and I use the word document in a very direct and deliberate way because there's a lot of documentation and footnotes of the United States. In fact, I'm talking here about the real Benghazi scandal. It's not about edited talking points. It's not about lies over a Muhammad video, which within itself should be a scandal. It's about what was going on inside that Benghazi facility, which was transferring arms to the jihadist-led rebels, first in Libya, then trying to collect the weapons, and now sending weapons to the jihadist-led rebels that include Al-Qaeda in Syria. So there's no question we are pretty much at this point, during Benghazi it was secretive, now we're openly arming Al-Qaeda-led rebels throughout the Middle East and North Africa. And the question we have to ask, and maybe this can answer your larger question of what is the ultimate agenda, the question we have to ask is why? Why in the world are we putting Al-Qaeda on steroids? Why in the world are we giving Al-Qaeda weapons that are now proliferating all over the place?
Because they plan to turn the whole Middle East and North Africa over to him. Look at his brother Odinga, as WorldNet Daily has broken, on record, bringing in all the Al-Qaeda people out of, just north there, out of Somalia, and actually trying to turn all of Africa over to them. Maybe there's something to the fact that that Obama really is actually not even using these people, but actually might be with them.
He might be with them. You can look at his larger, let's say, Islamic background, growing up in Indonesia, although, it's hard to hold against him where he was brought against his will as a kid. But you could also look, of course, at his church of 20-something years, which was not ordinary Christianity. It was black liberation theology, allied basically with Islamist ideology, with the Nation of Islam. But I see a lot of financial interest here. For example, in Syria, there's a key pipeline where we're arming Al-Qaeda in the very swaths of territory now that a lot of the fighting against Bashar Assad's regime is going on. There's a key pipeline that, on the one hand, Qatar and Kuwait and Saudi Arabia and the so-called moderate Arab regimes, let's say the Sunni axis, is trying to build, but Bashar Assad rejected it. And at about the same time he rejected it, that's when the insurgency started in Syria. And then there's another pipeline that Russia and China and Iran are trying to build. It's called the Islamic Pipeline, and that's what's in fact going to happen if Bashar Assad stays in power. So there are major gas interests, major oil interests there. Or Libya, same thing, a major natural gas reserve. Suddenly, when Muammar Gaddafi refused to do business with this kind of pipeline, that's when the revolution started in Libya. So I think that there are a lot of financial interests here that really need to be probed that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to the real Benghazi scandal, which is arming our jihadist enemies.
What do you think from researching it, it's in your book, the strategy is, though? How do they think they would get away, going back 3 years, arming of the most radical Sunni Muslims out of Qatar and Saudi Arabia and other areas? How do they think they'd get away with this politically? Because they tried to deny it for a while. Now, in the last year or so, the Council on Foreign Relations came out and said, quote, we need al-Qaeda. That's a quote, and admitted they're the only ones that'll actually fight. And so that's the group they've got to use. It's like, well, Assad's bad and Libya's leader's bad, so we're going to use al-Qaeda, which on record is 50 times worse. And these other countries weren't attacking anybody, and we're trying to actually work with the West. So that actually sends the message that if you try to, like, work with the West, we're just going to use al-Qaeda on you. But then how do they argue that with Egypt? Clearly, Mubarak 3.5, 4 years ago wasn't going along with the plan for Libya, so they threw him out, put the Muslim Brotherhood in, who started blowing up churches every day, shooting Egyptian military every day, and then our media calls them protesters and demonstrators. How can the West turn against their own strongman, Mubarak, who's not an angel, but compared to al-Qaeda, a great guy? I mean, what is the strategy there? I mean, that was a guy for 31 years working with the West. And you could go there, and compared to what it is now, Egypt was a lot better off.
Yeah, there's no question. I think that one of the reasons they get away with it politically is because I find it hard to believe that Republicans weren't briefed, that key Republican lawmakers from the Congress, from the Senate, were not first briefed, those on the intelligence committees, about the arming of al-Qaeda first in Libya. This goes back to first deposing Muammar Gaddafi's regime, when we were delivering large quantities, or at least coordinating with the Arab countries, large quantities of weapons to rebel groups whose leaders admitted, they boasted that not only are they part of al-Qaeda, but that they also previously were fighting American troops in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah, they bragged. They said, we've killed Americans before. And then they say, once we go to Syria, next we're going to get America in Israel. And then they sing songs to Osama bin Laden. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I think some Republicans knew about it, so that's first. And then second, how he gets away with it is a question that also needs to be asked about how he gets away with sidestepping Congress repeatedly, whether it's when Congress fails to pass the DREAM Act, and then instead, basically with executive order, which bypasses the right of Congress, the constitutional right guaranteed only to Congress to regulate immigration in the country. He changes the immigration law with just the swipe of a pen. That's it. How does he get away with that? How does he get away with Obamacare, which I know people will say, well, that went to the Supreme Court. They certified it constitutional. Well, I see a lot of changes. I've been reporting on it. It's in impeachable offenses to Obamacare, to the way it's being implemented, changes.
Sure. That's how they do everything. They write it as a blank check.
Yeah, indeed. Unconstitutional. So how does he get away with that? How does he get away? When people hear the word impeachment, they usually think of high crimes and misdemeanors. Well, first of all, high crime is not an ordinary crime. It's a crime committed by an individual in a position of high power. It's a crime against the office. But it's not only, impeachment is not only high crimes and misdemeanors, it's also bribery and treason. Well, I would put bribery up there with President Obama's first-term green stimulus. I don't understand how he got away with that.
Solyndra, but I mean, let's go further. Writing his letter to Congress after the Joint Chiefs told the House and Senate committees last year that he got his authority from NATO and didn't need to come to them, he should have instantly, the impeachment should have begun, open and shut, remove him, because it's bad to be a dictator or authoritarian, but it's really bad to say, I get my power from NATO. I mean, that is just open and shut case right there. He's impeached.
And then we also had Chuck Hagel, who said pretty much that. He said, we're going to come to Congress and inform you. He was referring to launching a military conflict, basically launching a war. So
well, they said, we'll inform you if we choose to.
Indeed. And this is Responsibility to Protect, R2P, which I have. I've reviewed our Responsibility to Protect extensively. I've reviewed those who founded it. I have many footnotes in Impeachable Offenses, the book just on this. I mean, this...
That's if nuclear missiles are launched. The Congress has already given the president the right to, with the football, to launch a counterstrike.
Yeah, it was founded by a group. One of three funders is George Soros. Soros is all over Responsibility to Protect, as is Samantha Power, who is President Obama's. Right now, she's at the United Nations. Previously, she was the
sure. I mean, I wasn't going after that lobbying thing to give the president the power to do whatever he wants. I was saying what they are talking about with the war powers is obviously if the U.S. is struck, there's a default that the commander-in-chief can respond, but he doesn't have the power to go start new wars or fund rebels wherever he wants without Congress.
But he apparently thinks that he does, because he did just that in Libya, in Libya, and then specifically in the consulate, the non-consulate. We never had a consulate in Benghazi. I don't know why people still call it that. It was a special mission that even the Libyan government didn't know about. And then he pretty much launched a proxy war in Syria by supporting one group against the other, a proxy war against Russia, a proxy war against Iran. But that's the theme here. The theme is that we tell you, we inform you, we'll go around Congress if need be, and we see this throughout all walks of life when it comes to Obama administration legislation, including the Department of Homeland Security, including the militarization, by the way, of the Department of Homeland Security, including, let's say, Viper drills I have in the book that have been taking place for about 2-3 years now. News media doesn't really talk about it, taking place with military personnel, which is against U.S. law.
And by the way, they were having those last week in D.C., and that's what the woman ran into that panicked. And we've actually confirmed that, but no other media has covered it. I tell you, Aaron, people need to get the book. It's available at InfoWarsStore.com or bookstores everywhere. Impeachable Offenses. This needs to be a #1 New York Times bestseller, because in closing, I want to see if you agree with me on this. If Obama gets away with this and then fades off, they've set the precedent that basically does turn America into an authoritarian state. We've got to impeach Obama. We can't just let him become a lame duck and sign a bunch of pardons.
Yeah, that's just it. This is not about Democrat. It's not about Republican. This is not about who has more seats in Congress or in the Senate. This is about just that. If he gets away with it, then somebody else, then the precedent is there. Then the red line has been crossed. Then somebody else who comes next, or in 5 years, 20 years, whatever it is, can do just this and much more. And he already got away with it. It seems that almost nothing is going to happen. That's why it's very important to send a message with this book and with the impeachment campaign.
I agree, and we're going to have you back up soon to talk about that campaign. Where can they learn more?
At KleinOnline.com. Also, you can get Impeachable Offenses at Amazon.com, of course.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to continue to push for impeachment, and everybody needs to, especially on auditing the Tea Party, and now they've been caught that they did order that. I mean, that's impeachable right there. That's political persecution. Incredible. All right, there goes Aaron Klein, folks. We're going to come back and go back to your phone calls and get into the other news that's breaking. There's so much of it, but it makes my head spin with how much stuff these globalists have gotten away with. When we come back, we'll give you the latest headlines at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. There's some breaking news, so stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been telling you about it for the last 2 hours. It's up on Infowars.com, video feeds of it. Hundreds of thousands of people, including illegals, are on the Washington Mall that had been blocked off with fences. They've opened it up for the illegals, saying it's their First Amendment. But when veterans show up, everything's your First Amendment. I mean, your right to go on public property, open parks. It's freedom. But they're saying this is allowed, but veterans aren't allowed to go to the World War II Memorial, that, by the way, is privately paid for and run. Or they can't go to Arlington Cemetery and the memorials that I've been to that are open air, that are right off the side of the street. If you jog down the sidewalk that's federal, they give you tickets or arrest you. But if you're illegals, you get to, because, again, the illegals are pawns, folks. The globalists have imploded their countries. They're just like the general public that thought they were going to get free health care under Obamacare and are now finding out all these Democrats are going, I'm paying double or I got to pay. Sebelius went on The Daily Show and explained, well, you can get out of doing it this year, getting it if it doesn't work, by paying $5,000 fine. And then they say, but I thought you're not going to take a fine. Well, we are. Well, you're not going to take it out of the bank account? We're going to garnish your wages. Obama's like, we didn't hire these thousands. Now it's like 18,000. I was looking. I was corrected. It's not, it was like 5,000, 7,000, 14,000. It's like 17, 18,000 IRS agents just to suck money out of your account. But then they're in the news going, we're not going to take money out of your account, but we are. I'm not going to sign the NDAA, but I did. It's so sick. Let's show TV viewers that shot from the mall with hundreds of thousands. If you're a radio listener, you can just go to Infowars.com. We have some photos of it. But giant events there. So if you're an illegal alien, I told you, folks, you are God. For now, you're part of the federal family. But if you're visiting from Mexico or Germany or France or Italy or Japan, as they are to national parks, they wait till you get into the national park, pay your money, and then tell you you're not allowed to get off your bus, but you can't leave, or you got to stay in your hotel for 2 days, literally as a prisoner. I mean, I cannot believe the magnitude, I keep using that word, of the flagrantness of this. The flagrantness of the World War II vets, it's turned out, are being detained, are being ticketed. What they do is they put them in handcuffs in their wheelchairs, and then they go and then give them a ticket. And you know the judges are going to throw the book at those vets. But right next door, the illegal aliens, they can do whatever they want. Because, again, this is about bringing America down, ladies and gentlemen, and getting as many people as you can in. Look at that guy with the Mexico flag right there. Liberation theology, all this stuff to literally tear this country apart with divide and conquer. That's why they're always injecting race. You don't like big government, you're a racist. If you don't want Obamacare, you're a racist. You don't turn your guns in, you're a racist. Because it's race ideology on all of the, quote, protected groups they run. And then meanwhile, everybody gets screwed in the final equation. We're going to go to break, come back with calls. And we've got a guest joining us coming up a little bit later in the transmission. We're going to have White Girl Bleed a Lot at 1:20, the author of that, on to talk about the undeclared race war going on that the media has helped stir up but doesn't want people to know about. So we're going to be talking to him briefly here. We just got more of it in from the laboratory, the cleanest, purest nascent iodine out there, glycerin-based, unbelievable from all the doctors and people we've interviewed for the thyroid and just for overall health, ladies and gentlemen. What it's doing for me is unprecedented. I've only been on it a month and a half. I'm going to take some right now on air. I already took some this morning. And use as directed. Consult a physician before you use it. This is not the toxic iodine stuff they sell for cuts and stuff that is poisonous, ladies and gentlemen. This is the real atomic iodine. With all the Fukushima stuff going on, it's insane not to protect your thyroid. That's what my family do, my number one choice. InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. It's back in and now available.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
If I was going to write an absurdist novel to try to top the grand falloons of Kurt Vonnegut, I would write about children taught 2 + 2 = 5. I would have an assignment for 5th graders to, quote, destroy the Bill of Rights and rewrite them. I would have the feds holding seniors hostage that already checked in at their hotel, saying they're not allowed to come outside. And I would not allow children to play with footballs or other balls at recess, saying it could be dangerous. But, of course, I don't need to write that as science fiction. That's just the news today. Illegal aliens can have a rally to end the borders, build government, free welfare, vote to take our guns. But veterans can't visit the memorial, or regular citizens get arrested if you cross the barricades to go on the mall. I mean, it is just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs that this is all going on. And it's the madness of the tyrant. And it's a spiritual disease. I find this in life, in business, because I use business to fund our operations, that people don't care, most of them, most people, about money or about freedom or about stability. They care about being able to dominate you wrongfully or do things their way that's screwed up. And it's getting worse, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just learning so much about human nature. It's bizarre. Like, you do something nice for people, they think you need something from them, or they've got something over on you, or that makes them disrespect. I'm not talking about everybody, but more and more, it's like a mental disease. I talk to a lot of executives, a lot of successful people in media, in industry, and they say it's happening everywhere. It's not just the police going crazy. It is the general public has gone stark raving mad. And I just marvel at it. I absolutely marvel. And people can't ever admit they're wrong. I admit I'm wrong all the time. People can't, I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm just totally blown away at this point. And people also think if they take you down, even if they're in the same line of work as you are, in their eyes, that will make them bigger. They don't even understand rising tide raises all ships. And that's the thing about the collectivists. At the end of the day, they're low-level schmucks. The suckers, the buffoons, the marks, the people that are being conned, they really believe somebody wants to give them a free lunch, and it's all because they love them and it's sweet. And that's kind of at the bottom of the barrel. You've got a bunch of fools. But with the folks running the government, running the show, and running the big corporations, they just want to shut down all their competition. And they want to just wreck everything so they can rule a giant steaming pile. And that's really what it comes down to. They want the freedom to wreck your life. Because you living your life is upsetting to them. You being empowered, you being successful, you being happy, you being strong. And then there's this icing of like dirtiness, thugism, where everybody's a tough guy and everybody's a thug and everybody's low down, everybody's, it's just all just, ugh. It's just like, wow, man, get me away from this. Get me away from this. It's just, it's not even a culture. It's television. It's Hollywood. It's all just an oozing, stinking, scared, confused people flailing around. And they think if they just had some power over somebody that would fulfill them. When just being a good, strong human and you having power individually as a person with integrity is what would fulfill you. Instead, you got to run my life to feel like you are fulfilled. We'll be right back with your phone calls. Stay with us. I'm Alex Jones. We are back live. Now into hour number 3, about to go to Ruth, Dave, Jason, Chase, Mike, and others that are patiently holding. If you just joined us, they're dropping the hammer, putting out their fake polls, saying the majority of Americans, 7 out of 10, blame the Republicans for what's going on. Classic skewed polls. On the street, people know the feds are out of control. They know they're persecuting people, keeping veterans out of memorials, while letting illegal aliens traipse all over them and have giant demonstrations. It's all about the absurdism of tyranny and getting us accustomed to being slaves. This is the radical transformation Obama, Obozo, Ozombie promised everyone. And now we're learning who the real owners are. Warren Buffett and the British government and the French government and the IMF and the head of the IMF in France and the communist Chinese. Here are the headlines. IMF warns Washington over debt impasse. Time magazine. Yes, they're telling us they'll lower our credit rating and we'll collapse if we don't. And then here's another one right here. Get your financial house in order, China warns U.S. as Asia expresses concern over the $1.3 trillion of U.S. debt. We've all been positioned so that we're all debtors, even if we're hardworking. But more people come in, though, get free welfare and get driver's license, and you can vote, and you can take Alex's guns, you can take Alex's money, and you could take everybody else's money till everybody's bankrupt, and the bankers are offshore above the law, and that's their plan. And this country is going to be a hellhole when they're done. And that's the plan. That is the program to impoverish us, to break us, to domesticate us, and bring in green tyranny, neo-feudalism that the globalists are all exempt from. And oh, look, talk about who's got a plan for all this. Got my little Warren Buffett article. You know, his company's gotten over $400 billion in banker bailouts total in the last 5 years. He personally recently got $10 billion from crisis-era investments. Oh, a little extra $10 billion for him of taxpayer money. No wonder he lobbies for higher taxes on rich people, which the average blue-collar worker thinks is a guy that's got 10 cents more than him. Warren Buffett's like, hey, that guy that's got a house with a swimming pool and hires you to do stuff, you know, the economy, or that guy that owns a restaurant and hires you, he's rich, he's bad. That guy that's got a factory making the extract or whatever, to use the example of free market that Mike Judge put out in his film Extract. It's actually based on a plant outside Austin, Texas, that I guess got shut down for similar reasons. But the point is, oh, yeah, you didn't know that? There's always a lot of stuff you think's fiction. Really isn't fiction, folks, in a way. You know what I mean? Give it inside baseball out here. The point is that, oh, yeah, that guy that employs you, he's rich, dirty, bad guy. No. Warren Buffett's the bad man. Warren Buffett's the one that if he has your way, fools, you'll have nothing. So there you go. No, he wants higher taxes. Notice Obamacare is taxes on poor people. Oh, so the bankers can run things so they can get that federal money. And the Chinese Communist Party and all the rest of them, a bunch of thugs. This country is being hijacked, and if the good Tea Party Republicans would come out and point that out, we would have our problems fixed very quickly. If they came out and said, you know, the Chinese, the IMF, and the big banks, they're the ones that maneuvered us into this, and the 600+ trillion they say is the U.S. debt and derivatives that the citizens have been signed on to. Well, Iceland said no. Greece said yes, and they're in worse shape. Well, this isn't our debt. We're not going to pay for this. But let me tell you, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, owned by Warren Turd Buffett, Warren piece of trash, parasite, fraud Buffett, they will come after you if you're in Congress and you try to touch that. But I'm giving you the big, dirty secret that'll blow these people politically sky high, okay? You're poor out there, you're working 2-3 jobs, trying to pay for everything, get pulled over, got to pay a ticket, can't pay the property taxes, can't pay the rent, they're going to keep squeezing you because you're a target until you finally go on welfare. And even then, it's not going to be enforced the way it is on the illegals because you're in America. They already got you. They got a score to settle with your great-great-granddaddy. Don't you get this with the New World Order? They hate America. I don't care what color you are. They hate you. You understand that? They want to break this country. You think they hated the Iraqis and killed over 1 million of them? Wasn't over oil. You think the globalists hate the Serbs and brought Al-Qaeda in to attack them and then bomb their whole country? They hate you more than they hate anybody. That's why they've been poisoning your water, your food. They sit back and laugh at what they've done to you. Land of the free, home of the brave, state police nationwide. Pull you over, put your wife on the hood, put a glove on, and just start ramming. Because they're there to show you, dog, that this is their country and they're a federal occupation force. You didn't know every state police in the country were set up after the Emergency Powers Act of 1933. They're really federal. And the federal order is, you break that scum, you break them now. World War II vets want to come? Arrest them. Illegals, come on in. Yeah. Sorry, let's go to Ruth in Texas. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty fired up.
I see that. I'm calling about the conversation you had earlier about the HR 3230 concerning the reserves getting paid. My husband's a reservist. He spent 3 years in Afghanistan, and he's not getting his reserve paid. The money's there the first start.
The illegal aliens are going to get theirs, though.
You bet they will, but our soldiers aren't going to get theirs. So they have put the bill before the House and it passed. The Senate didn't pass it. And Obama said if it did pass, he wouldn't sign it anyway.
No, that's what they do. And then they lie and say the Republicans are the ones not paying the reservists. Just all deception because we're an enemy. They treat us with total disdain because we are the enemy.
Exactly. The other thing that they're stopping is a lot of reservists, because they can't find jobs when they get back from overseas. They can give them a special duty, an active duty order, and they can get some pay. But they've stopped all that now, too. They won't, reservists can't even do any active duty.
Yeah, well, they passed that bill and signed it to get the regular troops paid, so... But, I mean, it's Obama going, you won't get your Social Security, we'll default. And then the Chinese government and the IMF and others come and agree with him. It's Obama and a bunch of foreign globalists telling us what to do in our internal politics. They have captured us just like a third world nation.
And they're playing us just right and left, both sides. And the other part is, I think what we need is a military million lady march on Washington. All the spouses should get together and go to Washington.
I hear you.
Women.
I hear you. God bless you, ma'am. And, you know, there's a lot of people trying to get marches and truck driver stuff and things going on. There's some elements trying to stir it up and say, hey, we're going to arrest members of Congress and we're going to do all this. Any talk like that is misguided or is a federal provocateur. I don't know which one. But I do support the truckers going to D.C. I do support marches on D.C. It's just that they're trying to antagonize us into something, or they're going to blow something up and blame it on us very soon. I mean, I just see that in the cards. It's like you're playing poker. You've been playing all night. You know what they're about to play. And it's just, they got ace of spades, folks. Boom, stage terror. And I'm telling you, we got to get the word out on that and psychologically awaken people and inoculate them in a positive way so that they understand. Even if terror is real, it's going to be used to take our freedom. So never give up your freedom. Say, no, I'll keep my freedom. And, you know, look, it's just like the public schools, I have the article, are now banning playing with balls at lunch, saying it could be dangerous. This is how they do it. Like, I shouldn't joke and say they should have TSA randomly in fields to stop honeybees from stinging people because they kill 200-plus people a year. They probably will do that next. But then push deadly vaccines on you. It's all a power grab, folks. Let's talk to Dave. Dave in Arizona. Thank you for calling in, sir, and thank you for holding. Go ahead. Dave, you're on the air from Arizona. Put him on hold. We'll go back to him later. Jason, you're on the air from Canada. Go ahead.
Yes, Alex. I just wanted to tell you that you have a lot of listeners above the 49. I wanted to tell you if this is a coincidence that the whole thing was taking place regarding with the woman who was shot on the Second and Constitution. Now, I'm Canadian, and I know, you know, the Second Amendment is, you know, the right to bear arms, and Constitution, I'm like, anyhow. And in regards to the tourist in Yellowstone.
You mean the terrorists that were held for days in their hotel at gunpoint? I think that's reasonable. I mean, how dare these foreigners from Germany and Japan flee towards the nearest airport saying, quote, I'll never come back. Your country has fallen to, quote, tyranny. How dare them? That's normal just to be in your hotel and have cops running around going, shut down, shelter in place, and not let them leave. I think that's totally reasonable that when tour buses pulled up, they pulled guns on them. I think that's great. Go ahead, Jason.
Yes, and in regards to the tourist in Yellowstone,
the terrorist,
I think it is. Yes, the terrorist. I think it's telling that you know, they say they do not want to go back to the United States ever again because listen.
Hey, listen, I can't get Watson to come here. He's been here before. I want Watson and his wife and his brother that all work for us to get over here, and they don't want to do it. And they fly all over the world. They go to China, they go to Switzerland, they go to, you know, you name it, and they're like, no, not that, no. And I'm like, yes. It's so pathetic. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, of course. No, yeah. I mean, and it's telling because I'm calling from Quebec, one of the most closed provinces in Canada, and we actually have a National Socialist Party in power. So that's saying something that, you know, the States has come a long way, you know.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's all a bunch of federal minions. All right, folks, Alex Jones back live. We're going to our guest here in just a moment. We're selling his book. It's very powerful. White Girl Bleed a Lot, dealing with, well, racial attacks against whites being organized nationwide. Now the media is basically covering it up. And he was first known for writing a book about a black fellow that was wrongly accused of a crime as well, or exposing that. But it just shows how the media is creating this balkanized society. We're going to talk to him in a moment. Here's a minute or two of the speech Obama just finished giving, where he is saying America won't be held hostage. When it's the Senate blocking this and Obamacare is completely out of control, it's wrecking the country. They can't even implement it. And all they're doing is saying, do a few things like medical devices, don't tax them. And he's like, no. And then the IMF, the Communist Chinese, they're all saying you'll do what Obama says. This is the breaking of America you're witnessing. And he acts like the Republicans want something free, an Xbox or something, when the truth is it's Obama putting America on welfare and trying to collectivize things. Here's a minute or two of that, and then we're going to go to our guest.
Take your questions, so I'll try to be brief at the top. This morning I had a chance to speak with Speaker Boehner, and I told him what I've been saying publicly, that I am happy to talk with him and other Republicans about anything.
That's why they refuse all the bills.
Not just issues I think are important, but also issues that they think are important. But I also told him that having such a conversation, talks, negotiations, shouldn't require hanging the threats of a government shutdown or economic chaos over the heads of the American people.
By the way, it's the Senate that shut the government down.
Think about it this way. The American people do not get to demand a ransom for doing their jobs. You don't get a chance to call your bank and say, I'm not going to pay my mortgage this month unless you throw in a new car and an Xbox. If you're in negotiations around buying somebody's house, you don't get to say, well, let's talk about the price I'm going to pay, and if you don't give me the price, then I'm going to burn down your house.
That's enough. Shut him down. Ladies and gentlemen, they are threatening to devalue the currency further and default and shut the entire credit system down if we don't do what they say. They held us hostage in 2008 with the banker bailout. So, again, it's the opposite of what they're saying. And it's flipping everything. Meanwhile, they're holding all the monuments, national parks hostage, going into national parks run by private interests and saying, we don't care if it's all paid for and you're running it. No one's allowed to be in here. They're holding everyone hostage, not letting veterans go to memorials on the mall, but the illegal aliens can have a rally right now. I mean, this is just unbelievable. But he has moron constituents, so what do you expect? I'm going to shut up now and get to Colin here, who wrote this book, White Girl Bleed a Lot. We're going to go to Colin Flaherty to break down his book, White Girl Bleed a Lot. And the book just came out, The Return of Racial Violence to America, to look at what has caused this, because he's written a detailed study of examples and broken this down. And so many of the news articles he has in here, I've seen them, I've read them, but they're always local. It's never a national news story. And so, sir, thank you for coming on the show to break this down. For folks that haven't read your book or don't know about it, in a nutshell, tell us why you wrote this book and what it encompasses.
White Girl Bleed a Lot is about an epidemic of racial violence all over the country. I document more than 500 cases in over 100 cities. But even more important than that, I document how the media ignores it, condones it, excuses it, and sometimes even denies it.
And it's getting worse. I mean, why do you think it's getting worse?
You know, I'm not really that good on the big picture causes and solutions. I also don't do apologies. I just really document it's happening. That's why I wrote the book. It's because I was meeting so many people who were saying, Colin, that's not happening. But then I was seeing all these stories, the stories you were talking about. And then I would look to compare what I saw in the paper with what I saw on YouTube. And it was like I was watching stories from two different universes. So I don't know why it's getting worse. It is getting worse. It's happening in many, many places, big and small, around the country, places we would expect it, places we wouldn't.
When we come back, I want to go over when you first started to see this and discover it and some of the cases and examples. But the key you just hit, because reading the book, it was like deja vu, because as a news guy, I've already been studying this, but there was a lot of cases I didn't know about that were in the book, where the media, well, there's cases where reporters are attacked, and they're told, well, we can't say you were racially attacked because that would be racist.
There's a lot of reporters under attack. That's kind of the ironic part of the book.
Yeah, we're going to come back, and then they're told they can't talk about how they were racially attacked and told it was racial. Really crazy, and MSNBC, I believe, is mainly behind it, and the college is promoting it, that it's like a duty. I mean, being white is inherently bad, and so it's just incredible. It's similar to the Klan attacking black people. During the break, I was watching Fox News out there in the control room. Obama said that Tea Party Republicans are holding the country hostage like a nuclear bomb, in the words of Warren, the scam artist Buffett. And that in just a week of, quote, this nonsense, they're going to destroy the faith and credit of America. And again, they're always intending for us to default, go totally bankrupt down the road. They're maneuvering us. Obama says when he raises the debt ceiling, that doesn't raise debt. And they're maneuvering us into this, but lying to the ignorant public. And sitting there telling them that it's Republicans. Folks, Obamacare, I think Mitch McConnell's actually right now. I'm going to go back to our guest. I've thought about this deeply. It's immoral to let this pass, but you've tried to let it pass. If they actually step back and go, okay, fine, you get Obamacare, it's so horrible it won't even work, and then it all just falls apart anyways. Instead, they're going to blame everything falling apart on those of us that don't want to wreck the country. Because I can really see where this is going, but... oh, it's disgusting. Let me just ask Colin Flaherty his take, best-selling author, researcher, journalist. He joins us to talk about White Girl Bleed a Lot, but he's also written other featured stories in the Los Angeles Times, NPR, as well as an hour-long special on Court TV. And I should add, his story about how a black man was unjustly convicted of trying to kill his white girlfriend resulted in the man's release from state prison. That's a famous case. Well, that was Kelvin Wiley. So a lot of folks will spin it. But as he said, he's not going to apologize. Oh, you better apologize, you know, talking about the FBI crime statistics of black-on-white crime being so disproportionate. He's just a journalist telling the truth. So I'm going to shut up now, sir, and let you have the floor and break down the book we sell at InfoWarsStore.com, White Girl Bleed a Lot, because, again, reading this, it's worse than I even thought. Tell us what's really happening and the time frame of why this has been accelerating in some of the cases.
Well, I'm not, I don't know why it's been accelerating, but let's break down one case that happened last weekend. And you multiply this by 500, multiply it by 1,000, and that's what the book is all about. In Fresno over the weekend, did you see a story where one person was shot, one person died, and 13 people were shot? And according to the Washington Post, this happened at a multiracial motorcycle club that was having a dance. Well, the real story is this party was part of a weekend gathering of the largest gathering of black motorcycles on the west coast of America. This was black mob violence. There were 5,000 black motorcycles in town. Happens twice a year in Fresno. Nobody on the planet thinks this is a multiracial motorcycle group, any of the dozens of groups that were there. And so they kind of diminish the violence. They kind of deny who's involved in it. And here's why this is important. Every day, you and I pick up a newspaper and we realize we live in the most race-conscious country in the world. We read about black caucuses, black churches, black colleges, black labor unions, black professional groups. Yet we turn around and many of these stories are written by members of the National Association of Black Journalists. Yet we have a story like Fresno, and we say, well, what's up with this incredible amount of black mob violence that happened just, for example, in Fresno or in Seattle the night before that? And these same journalists will look at you and say, we are colorblind. So that's why I wrote the book. There's so much denial out there. I just wrote the book for people that when they're done reading the book, no one can say, this isn't happening anymore.
Well, I mean, look, when white mobs in mob psychology get together, and go out and attack black people, which has been a phenomenon that's been phased out, thank God. I've gone out and protested it and covered it because it's wrong and it's a gang mentality. And they say white members of the Ku Klux Klan drug a black guy to death. But when black folks, burn a little white kid up with a blowtorch, they won't even say it's a black lady because it's the opposite. It's omitting things, and it's crazy political correctness.
Alex, I don't know that you or I are saying that we have to document the race of every single crime that takes place in every single newspaper. But the numbers are so exponentially out of proportion, and the papers ignore it on such an epic level. I wrote the book because I really wanted to call out the media for ignoring it and denying it.
Well, sure. I mean, it's Orwellian, Colin, because I'll see articles as a news guy reading hundreds a day, scanning them, and it'll say, family attacked in Central Park by a group of men wearing sports jackets or soccer-type jerseys. And they don't even say what color the guys were. And we go, oh, those will be black guys. It turned out it was, because they won't say. It's like there is a male, 35 years old, seen running out of the liquor store, and they won't say the race. Bingo. Then it's wild. I mean, they'll say the color of a car somebody's in, but they won't say what color it is. And the media does this as a rule. They will not say what color someone is, but only if they're black. If it's white or Hispanic or Asian, they will say it, because obviously, you need to know if there's somebody who's fled the scene, what color they were.
Well, reporters have conferences, the Society of Professional Journalists and the National Association of Black Journalists and other groups have conferences about how to cover these crimes. And they're very explicit. Melissa Harris Perry at MSNBC, she had a whole show where she was talking about how she thought that black people black reporters should not report black crime, and Muslim reporters should not report Muslim crimes if it makes blacks or Muslims look bad. Now, normally they have these conversations in private at the MoveOn.org conventions. So I was happy that she had it on the air, and I write about that in the book as well.
It's amazing, and we see a lot of examples of this. Give us some more examples that are in the book of the hundreds.
Well, the book gets its title from Chicago, from Milwaukee. I'm sorry, where 50 to 100 black people went into a convenience store. They looted it on video. Then they took their groceries and candy to a nearby park, where they assaulted 10 white kids having a July 4th picnic. At one point, a black woman is standing over a white woman, looks down and says to her friends, "White girl bleed a lot." Enormous amount of this black mob violence happening all over the country, enormous amount of denial on the part of people in the press. And and multiply that 1K. Here's the story this year. The story this year is not that it's happening in the big cities, Boston, New York, Baltimore, Chicago, Philly, but it's happening in the places that, unless you've been there, you wouldn't expect it. Like when I talk around the country on this topic, I always say, does anybody know that Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Seattle, Portland are centers of racial violence? Nobody knows this, but Milwaukee absolutely is. What about the small cities? What about Peoria, Greensboro, Durham, Springfield? Peoria, Illinois is a hotbed of racial violence. And all this is happening. Nobody's connecting the dots. And so that's why I wrote the book, to connect the dots without generalizations, without stereotypes, but also without apologies.
Well, then you have something like the unfortunate Trayvon Martin situation, where the media does the opposite and calls some guy, George Zimmerman, who, I'm sorry, does not look like a white guy to me. And then they make that he's a white guy and that he's a racist and all this other stuff. I mean, look, I know why this is increasing, amongst other things. The controlled corporate media hypes racial division 24/7, and in Hollywood and all the shows, the white guy is the bad guy. And so if people literally, I think, just like the Klan hyped up that black people were the problem, so whites would go out and kill blacks. I mean, it's the exact same thing.
There's an enormous amount of, it's being taught in schools, churches, and homes. Right now, in over 200 school districts around the country, and I've written about this, they learn critical race theory, which says racism is everywhere, racism is permanent. They're teaching this to grade school kids. So when you see these videotapes, which are, by the way, there's thousands of them. The white liberals may deny black mob violence, but there are many, many people who celebrate it. When you see these videos of black mob violence,
no, they have websites. They have websites that show it, and it's like celebrated. Yeah, And so it's celebrated, but you could see the anger and resentment.
And you could see it's now being taught in schools, grade schools. Forget colleges. We know they're a lost cause, but it's being taught in grade schools. Wisconsin, California, Connecticut. These are statewide programs.
It really is amazing. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and I'm a white guy, and I never heard racial epithets at the deer camp around what you call rednecks. I never saw or heard any of it. Then when I visited the North more, I noticed everybody was making jokes at each other, but it was more of a joke thing. But, I mean, it just seems like things are so racially charged now, and then it's clear who's hyping it is the Ford Foundation, the MSNBC, all of them. I mean, here's an example. They go on MSNBC every few weeks and say Alex Jones is deeply racist and then show no proof of what I've said, nothing I've stated, nothing I've done. And then I've actually, the good news is most black folks I run into are actually listeners and are awake and are freaked out by this. But there are definitely kind of, gangster-type thug-like folks, kind of like the Klan attracts white trash or whatever, who really are believing it. And it's a holier-than-thou thing. It's almost like gang war, how the prisons are all segregated with black, Hispanic, white, Asian gangs. I think the left is really trying to segregate America into groups because this is all they've got. They don't want racism and division to die, and I think they've been very successful relaunching it.
Well, they've been successful, but what we have on our side is we have the truth. And 10 years ago, I could not have written this book because there were no videos. But now there are videos. There's an enormous amount of videos where we can speak the truth to MSNBC. And, whenever anybody calls you a racist or anything, it reminds me of what the great Thomas Sowell says. He says a racist is any conservative winning an argument with a liberal. So we don't have to worry too much about what those clowns at MSNBC say.
But I want people to be wealthy, happy, to have good families, live in peace. This political correctness where all over the country, they're trying to ban the word brown paper bag, which has never any racial connection. Now, if I have white napkins, it means I'm racist. It's like a mass mental illness or something.
It's a mass mental illness, but there are also a lot of good people speaking out. There's people like Talib Starks, who wrote a book called The Uncivil War. There's all the stuff of Thomas Sowell. There's all the stuff of Walter Williams. There's a lot of people. You know where the people speak out the truth? Not in the newspapers, but in the comment section of the newspaper. I don't even read the stories anymore. I just go right to the comments.
That's right. A lot of newspapers are getting rid of the comments now, admitting, this came out last week, I'm sure you saw it, admitting that there's extremism and libertarianism and racism and conservatism in the comments, so they're just getting rid of them.
I write about that in the book, how some comment sections are heavily censored. But there are so many places. There's too many places now. There's too many ways for the truth to get out. Talk radio. When we talked about White Girl Bleed a Lot, the incident in Milwaukee, the police did not even take a report when that happened. The next day, the kids go down to the station and they said, "What happened to these people who beat us up?" And they go, "We don't know what you're talking about." They went to talk radio. And so the talk radio blew that case up. And
I was about to say the increasing racial attacks in Central Park, the media has tried to cover that up, but so many people involved in it brag, so it forced it out. And the police will stand there if there's any minority, which encourages it. I guarantee you, if they let whites as a general group do whatever they wanted, there would be bad criminal whites that would go out and do this kind of stuff, just like the Klan. But, take the Puerto Ricans raping the women. The police would do nothing hundreds of times. Same thing with black, because it is authorized. Here's an example. You got a group of motorcyclists, turns out to be cops, some of them, going and messing with the SUV, attacking it. And then the cops knew day one that was their cops and their people, but they covered it up. It's the same deal where the police are afraid to go after their own or any minority.
A good example of that is the Iowa State Fair. 2 years ago, they had hundreds of black people over a several-night period beating people both in and out of the Iowa State Fair, Des Moines, Iowa. So some reporters went to somebody filed a police report that people were chanting "Beat Whitey Night." So reporters went to the police spokesman, Lori Loverato, and they said, "Lori, what's up with it? Is that really, are black people really attacking white people, mobs of black people at the Iowa State Fair?" She said, "Yeah, it's happening. We don't know why, but it's happening." She was fired for that. And so to me, cops on the beat are heroes, but the people who run police departments are much less so. And a lot of times they'll get in trouble and they'll be fired for telling the truth about racial violence.
Other examples, I mean, this is a book you literally can't put down, InfoWarsStore.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. We have the author on with us, Colin Flaherty, right now, The Return of Racial Violence to America. And I think the prisons are part of this, too, because they're all divided into gang groups. And then once you do that, you have to continue it because it really is in racial groups. I mean, America is being balkanized by design. Why do you think the authoritarian left, is what I call them, why are they so obsessed with creating racial division?
Oh, man. You know, Alex, I wish I knew the answer to that, but there's absolutely no question that we are the most racially conscious country in the world, and it's getting worse. I'm one of these, I guess I'm one of these poor, naive people who believes in one race, the human race. So I don't buy any of the racial divisions. But it's getting worse. You know, I was going to be on your show last Thursday, but things happened, so we put it off till today. Just since Thursday, well, look what's happened. In Raleigh, North Carolina, we have mobs of black people on 2 nights in a row roaming the streets of downtown Raleigh, beating people up. We had up near Seattle, Washington, we had a carload of black people hurl racial insults, attack a soldier, killing him in Seattle, Washington. Then we had this business in Fresno, a party of 500 or more black bikers creating violence and mayhem on epic scale. So this is happening all over the place. Why we can't talk about, I'm not sure, but I will tell you, for anybody listening to this, the way to talk about it is don't generalize, don't stereotype, but we don't have to apologize either for noticing.
Well, I mean, the issue here is that's the political correctness, saying if you're racially attacked or see it, don't talk about it because, hey, you pretty much deserve it. Take the bikers that it turns out were cops. It was a double gang deal. It looks to me on the video like the famous New York deal that nobody's pointing out. Looks like it was probably racial as well, if you really look at it, or at least has that connotation. You know, if it had been white bikers attacking a black guy. There were a lot of black
bikers involved in that New York incident, but a lot of people think because they're Hispanic they can't be black. A lot of bikers were involved were from the Dominican Republic. That's why they're black and Hispanic. A lot of black people involved in that.
Well, I mean, my whole thing is it's gang. It's all gang culture. Stay there. I want to come back and talk about this because, folks, this is going on everywhere. And then people that don't want to be part of it, they get, called sellouts or whatever because they don't want to be racist. This is bad. The system doesn't want it to be addressed because that will destroy their political correct paradigm. They hijacked the Christian conservative movements of abolition and then the Republicans passing the Civil Rights Act. The Democrats have been the party of the Ku Klux Klan. It's just a fact. And they were already racial politics, and they lost because of mainly white Christians and veterans coming home saying we're not going to be part of this anymore, and who'd seen tyranny. And, I know because one of my grandfathers was involved in the Civil Rights Movement in East Texas. Believe me, that wasn't popular. But then the Democrats switched over to make it racial politics with the, quote, minorities, who they're going to make the majority, and then it's right back. It's racial politics. They know what they're doing. Briefly, you can get White Girl Bleed a Lot at InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, and InfoWarsStore.com. Both have the Survival Shield, nascent iodine. You can go find out the amazing details of it for the thyroid, blocking radiation, but also the health effects. This is what all the top experts we talk about. Nobody's got nascent iodine like this. I mean, nascent iodine, hardly anybody has it anyways. This is one of the best kept secrets. We've been doing deep research for years, finding out the best stuff out there. Just what it does for my whole metabolic rate, my energy, everything. It's spectacular. What, a third of women have thyroid issues? I mean, they will not tell you it's the fluoride being added that then displaces the good iodine. So it's a fluoride detoxer, you name it, InfoWarsLife.com. And also HD car camera. It looks like your rearview mirror, and it is a rearview mirror, but it has an HD video camera so you can catch in front or behind or to the sides, whatever happens. It's got the little HD video feed. You can hit the button and pop up. This is the way to protect yourself from criminals, out-of-control police, bureaucrats, or maybe you see something cool going on with wildlife. All available at InfoWarsStore.com, and your purchases, the books, the videos, the T-shirts, all the great products fund this news operation. Colin Flaherty, author of White Girl Bleed a Lot. In closing, in the 4 minutes we've got left here, sir, I see the tide turning against this, as you were saying, because it's getting so bad. And I just hope people recognize MSNBC for what they are. They literally are the Klan of the 21st century pushing race politics.
Well, isn't it reflected in the other news programs at NBC? Isn't MSNBC so bad? Their racial politics are tarnishing the entire brand.
Yes.
NBC, Meet the Press, is at historic lows for ratings. How can that not be connected?
But, I mean, the power structure's got to know it's not working. It's cartoonish what they do. Don't want to turn your guns in? You're racist. NRA's the new Klan, when the NRA was founded by white Christians to arm freed black slaves. On record.
That's the truth. But as long as there's people like you telling the truth and I'm telling the truth, I don't think MSNBC has a chance.
I don't think they do either. I mean, this is the kind of media that called Charlton Heston racist when he was in the civil rights movement. I mean, there's just no end to these people. They really are just thugs at MSNBC.
There's no end to them, but there's also an almost limitless supply of examples that show how deluded they are. I mean, you look at Baltimore, this once great city, where now if you go to downtown Baltimore, it's just one episode of black mob violence after another.
Cal Mueller went to see Django in the richest part of Chicago and had black folks tell him and his white buddy, get out of here, we're going to kill you.
You know, I mean, how could you have a better example than that of the enormous resentment that is producing the violence?
And you know what makes me sad? I mean, most white folks aren't buying into this, but I mean, this is actually increasing. This is actually encouraging the white supremacist in people. I mean, their ranks are growing now. And that's really a really bad byproduct. I mean, how do we counter that? Yeah, he can't hear me because...
Well, we're going to counter it with...
Yeah.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, right. Your Skype was cutting out for a minute. Stay there. I'm going to come back. Sometimes when we send you audio, it'll cut over your audio and delay it. We're going to come right back to you. Stay there.
Thank you for listening.
Just 5 minutes overdrive, folks. Infowars.com/show for all the free feeds. Podcast, you name it. All right, Colin Flaherty, the best-selling author of White Girl Bleed a Lot, chronicling the race war the media has been stirring up, one-sided race war predominantly. And Skype has a weird phenomenon. Sometimes when we got music jacked up going to somebody, they can't hear me. And then we had to, like, turn that feed down to where he could then hear what I said, because it's two feeds going to him, I guess. I don't know how it all works, but he couldn't hear what I was saying till we turned the audio down, and then he could hear the end of it. The point I was getting at, Colin, was... I mean, I've answered my own question. The power structure doesn't want us unifying around the Bill of Rights, Constitution, and liberty for all. They want us divided, kind of the big city, New York, borough-style politics. And the question is, you know, can we stop that? But I was just getting into how it's encouraging then, you know, radicals on the other side of the fence as well. I mean, I am seeing an increase in rhetoric from white folks, too, people that never have been racist, you know, feeling like they're being persecuted. So they're now becoming more angry. And that's exactly what MSNBC wants.
The psychiatrists tell us we're only as sick as our secrets. And what are we more secretive about than race? So I know that when we start talking about this racial violence with more openness and candor,
I am just not meant to let him finish his statement. Now his Skype cut out. Try to reconnect. I want to be able to finish his point. I want to get this guy back on over phone or something, because this Skype's a little bit dodgy there. It's a whole other kettle of fish, as they say. But separately, I wanted to bring this final point up to him, so I want to get him back on. Take the poor black lady that got shot and killed last week running from a checkpoint. I immediately just heard a woman had been killed, knew they were having drills. Adon Salazar found it. We guessed they were lying. She hadn't shot at them. It turned out we were right. Okay? And then I immediately saw comments saying, Alex is only mad because she's white. She was driving a fancy car. I saw that on YouTube and on InfoWars. I don't even really read a lot of comments. I just saw them. And I thought, man, people are already thinking racially as if I wouldn't care if it was a black lady. I mean, it doesn't even enter my brain whether she was black, white, purple, green. I mean, it's so old. I mean, they obviously know saying brown paper bag is racist. It's not racist. They just want us all at each other's throats, obsessed over everything, to create total division, or then just collapsing and saying, I'll do whatever the government says, just don't call me racist. So that's my point right there, is that this woman got executed, and under very suspicious circumstances, and the family says that the official story isn't true. What is your take on how when the government kills somebody, though, they never try to bring the race issue in, at least part of the time?
Well, there's so many wacky narratives out there about race. Alex, have you ever noticed when you're talking about race, it always takes about a minute for the conversation to get completely absurd? And because when people have these racial beliefs, they're so irrational that they can't sustain them for more than a minute. And so when we start telling the truth about race, people get freaked out about it. So even the government can't sustain it, as you could tell from listening to MSNBC, which is basically, the mouthpiece for that kind of thing.
I hear you. Before your Skype breaks up again, I just want to thank you for coming on. Colin Flaherty, White Girl Bleed a Lot, book available everywhere, as well as InfoWarsStore.com. Get it there and support us. Thank you so much, sir.
An honor to be here, and I hope I get a chance to contribute some of these things to your Infowars.com magazine.
Thank you so much, sir. Absolutely. We'd love to put it in the magazine if you'd like to write any articles for it. Thank you so much, journalist, joining us there, author of White Girl Bleed a Lot, Colin Flaherty. Yeah, I mean, if you look at what's going on here, folks, this is about making the subject about people fighting with each other instead of foreign banks stealing trillions of dollars from us a year, or the NSA spying on all of us, or all the troops being given deadly vaccines, or people, period, having their kids taken by foster care for no reason. We're all under globalist attack. Their only hope to complete the takeover is to get us at each other's throat, and that's exactly what they're doing. All right, I'll be hosting the Nightly News tonight with special reports, 7 o'clock Central, PrisonPlanet.tv.